That price war you just watched? Every AI in it runs on the same scarce pile of chips from basically one company. This year, America locked that company out of China, its biggest market on Earth, and it became the most valuable company in history anyway. This is the war underneath the war, and it decides who's allowed to build intelligence itself. Chapter 1. Why the chips are the real war. Here's the thing nobody in the price war mentioned. All of it, every chatbot, every model, every answer, runs on physical silicon. And the company that makes most of it, Nvidia, is now worth around $5 trillion. The most valuable company on the planet. Not because it makes an AI, because it makes the shovels everyone else digs with. And the digging is insane. In 2026 alone, the big tech companies are pouring something like $700 billion into AI data centers, stacking up towards $7 trillion over the next few years. That's not software. That's concrete, power, and chips. Whoever controls the chips controls all of it. The real war was never about price. It was about who owns the factory floor of intelligence itself. Chapter 2. How an AI chip actually works. Quick, painless, I promise. So why chips and not just faster computers? One word, parallel. A normal processor does a few things very fast, one after another. An AI chip, a GPU, does thousands of small math problems at the exact same time. And that's all an AI really is. Billions of tiny multiplications run in parallel over and over. So the more lanes you can run at once, the smarter and faster your model. That's why this one specific kind of chip ate the world. But raw chips aren't the moat. The moat is the software. Nvidia spent almost 20 years building a layer called CUDA, the thing every AI researcher writes their code against. Switch to a rival chip, and a lot of that code simply breaks. So even when a competitor's hardware is cheaper, teams stay. That's not a technical lock-in. It's a habit worth hundreds of billions of dollars. And there's a secret bottleneck almost nobody talks about: memory. A GPU can only think as fast as you can feed it data, and that feeding is done by something called high bandwidth memory, HBM. It's rare, it's brutally hard to make, and it's mostly built by a handful of companies. Hold on to that word, HBM. It quietly decides this entire war. Chapter 3, the empire. Let's talk about the toll. A few years ago, a top AI chip, the A100, cost roughly $10,000. Then the H100, around $40,000. The newest Blackwell systems, north of $60,000 a chip. And the racks they live in run into the millions. Prices went up generation after generation, and everyone paid because there was nowhere else to go. $60,000 chips sold out for a year. The most expensive picks and shovels ever made, and a line out the door. This is what people call the Nvidia tax. The overwhelming majority of AI training, most estimates put it around 80 to 90%, runs on Nvidia. So a huge slice of every dollar spent on AI anywhere on Earth flows back to one company in California. That is the most valuable position in technology. And of course, everyone else wants out. Chapter 4, the Great Wall. Because chips aren't just expensive, they're a weapon. Watch this whiplash. 2022, America bans its best AI chips from China. Nvidia builds a slower China legal version, the H20. April 2025, the government halts even that. July, reverses and lets it ship again. January 2026, it opens the door wider, the stronger H200, case by case. And just this month, it extends the ban to Chinese companies outside China too. nobody can keep up. That's kind of the point. Here's the result on a map. America draws a wall around its best silicon. China gets locked out of the frontier. And Nvidia's share of the Chinese AI market reportedly collapses. By some analyst estimates, from around 2/3 to single digits, near zero on the banned chips. The biggest AI market on Earth, mostly gone. And remember the paradox, Nvidia got richer anyway. Chapter 5, China's answer. So China builds its own. Meet Huawei's Ascend 910C, the chip that's supposed to set the country free. Alibaba, Tencent, even DeepSeek are lining up. The plan? Around 600,000 of them in 2026 and over 1 million domestic AI chips across China. On paper, it's roughly 1/3 as powerful as Nvidia's best for training. But for everyday AI, for inference, it's good enough. And good enough times 1 million is a real army. Sanctioned, cut off, and shipping its own AI chips by the hundreds of thousands. So how is that even possible? Here's the honest gap. On the hardest training jobs, Ascend still trails. It's slower, it runs hotter, it needs more chips to do the same work. But most AI in the real world isn't frontier training. It's inference, answering, summarizing, replying 1 billion times a day. And there, good enough and available beats the best and banned. China didn't try to win the top, it tried to win the floor. Chapter 6, the crack in the wall. This is where it gets weird. Except China's independent chip has a secret inside it. When researchers cracked open those made-in-China Ascend chips, they found something awkward. The brains inside were built by TSMC in Taiwan. American investigators say Huawei got around 2.9 million of these dies through a shell company routed through the Cayman Islands straight past the sanctions. The chip that was supposed to free China from the West was quietly running on the West. And it gets worse for China. Remember HBM, that secret memory? China can only make enough of it for maybe 200,000 to 300,000 of its own chips a year, a fraction of what it needs. And the kicker? DeepSeek, China's AI darling, reportedly tried to train its next model on Huawei chips and couldn't. Too many failures. It crawled back to Nvidia for training and only used Huawei to run the finished model. China's smartest AI company couldn't train on China's own silicon. That's the crack in the wall. Chapter 7. The third player nobody saw coming. While America and China fight, a third group quietly built an escape hatch. The giants are making their own chips. Google has its TPUs, the silicon that runs Gemini, now powering a record deal with Anthropic. Amazon has Trainium, Microsoft Maya, Meta, MTIA. None of them want to pay the Nvidia tax forever, so they're becoming chip companies too. Now line up the 3 bets. Nvidia, the best chips, the deepest software moat, and the highest price. Huawei, good enough, blocks from the best tools, fighting its own supply. In-house silicon, cheaper per dollar for the people big enough to build it, but useless to everyone else. There is no clean winner. There's just 3 very different answers to one question. Who do you want to depend on? Best, blocked, or build your own? Every company on Earth is quietly placing this bet right now. Chapter 8. And yes, this is about you. You will never buy one of these chips. But they decide which AI you're allowed to use, how fast it answers, and what it costs. The cheap models in that price war? They only got cheap because somebody, somewhere, found cheaper enough compute. Geopolitics is now sitting inside your chatbot. The smart move is the same one as last time. Don't marry one provider, and don't marry one piece of silicon. So here's the takeaway, builder to builder. If you make anything with AI, route it. Easy high-volume work? Send it to whatever's cheap and available, even a good enough chip. Hard money-making work? Pay for the frontier. And keep your stacks swappable, so when the chip war shifts again, and it will, you can move. The winners of this whole era won't be the ones who picked the right chip. They'll be the ones who never got stuck with the wrong one. So that's the war under the war. 3 bets on who controls the silicon: America's frontier, China's good enough, and the giants quietly building their own. The price war was the surface. This is the foundation. Next time on Donkey AI. If AI now runs on millions of these power-hungry chips, who's going to power them? The energy war is coming. Until then, one honest question. Should America sell its very best chips to China or not? Tell me in the comments.